So would you agree that in order to be successful, we have to plan for success? Would you agree? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah, I don't agree. And the reason I don't agree is because for many organizations, for many teams, and for many individuals, by the time we've taken the time to craft a plan, we will not deviate from it. We will not waver from it no matter what, even as it ceases to remain relevant. And as we all know, the only thing we can plan for today is that things are going to change. And the pace is accelerating, and change can come from anywhere. So change can be internal within inside the organization, or it can be external. So examples of internal change would be policies and procedures change, deadlines change, budgets change, scope changes, probability of success change, as we just heard. It could be organizational chart changes, technology changes. And you could see how any of those changes could impact the plans that you or your team are working on, correct? If we think about external change, things that are happening outside of the organization or outside of our control, it could be things that are happening in our market space. So it could be a competitor moving in or out of the market space. It could be new technology being introduced. It could be changes in government at all three levels: legislation, regulation, standards. We could look at the changing demographic of the Canadian population, thinking about diversity or having an aging population and how that might impact what it is that we're working on. Or having 5 generations in the workplace, and possibly in this room. Looking at things like the fluctuations in the dollar, the global economy, or climate change, any of these things have the potential to impact the plans that we're working on. Now, some of these things we can foresee. We can predict the impact it's going to have on us, and we can adjust our plans accordingly. But others are going to stop us in our tracks.
That's not good.
Oh, I don't need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are 2 people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something?
Help!
I don't believe this. You gotta be kidding me.
I'm gonna cry.
Well, there's not enough left to do, is it?
Hello? Hey, don't worry about it. I'll fix it in a second.
He said he could fix it. All right. All right. That's more like it. He says he can fix it.
Know anyone like this? The fact is, we can all be like this, especially at work, especially if we've been there for a while, and especially if we're good. I mean, if we're good, if we're having success, if we're getting results, we're not looking for an alternative. If our escalator continuously takes us where we need to go, we're not looking to take the stairs. But anything can stop our escalator, can impact our plans or get in the way of us achieving our goals or getting to our destination. So I want you guys to picture yourselves planning the perfect day at work. And you are good. You have thought of everything. And now the day has arrived. It's a beautiful, sunny, warm day. And on your commute, there's no traffic or construction or transit malfunction. If you have any meetings planned, everyone shows up on time, prepared, and there's quick agreement. Any of the information that you require is received, complete and accurate, along with any approvals that you need in order to move forward. All of your projects are running on time, under budget, and within scope. No one has asked for you to do it better, faster, and cheaper. Any of the equipment or materials that you need are available when you need it, where you expect it, and in working order. Everything has been accepted. There has been no request for a restart, a readjustment, a realignment, not even a tweak. In fact, the only time you hear from your client is when they call to tell you what an outstanding job you're doing. There's no unexpected emails, phone calls, texts, or requests. No one just shows up at your desk unexpected. And at the end of the day, you get to go home early, having checked everything off your list. That's like a typical day though, right? It's not a typical agile day? No? What kinds of things might not go according to our plan? Just yell out a couple. Everything. And anything specific, what might not go according to plan? Traffic, always, right? Sorry? Conflicts, yes, absolutely. So things that we didn't plan for. So it's not just the big strategic changes. It's not just the big external or competitive changes. It's also the change that happens in the moment. And it doesn't matter how good you are. Doesn't matter how long you've been doing this or how well planned you are, things are still going to not go according to our plan. So when this happens, we have to be able to go off the plan that we've been following, or go off the script that we've been following, or what I like to call working unscripted. I was in the right room. Now, if we think about the work that we do, and thinking about in terms of working within Agile or within project management, we think about the types of scripts that we could be working with. You know, we tend to think about, you know, there's be policies and procedures and project plans and work back schedules and code and user manuals and phases and steps. And some of those are absolutely needed and absolutely necessary. And those are my two favorite words when it comes to scripts, is needed and necessary. And if they are and they're serving you well, keep them and use them. But there are some that might be holding you back, or at one time they might have been adding value, but they're no longer value. This is what we need to challenge. But these are the written scripts, the formal scripts. These are the easiest ones to identify, the easiest ones to communicate, and I'll argue the easiest ones to change. But what I want to talk to you about today are assumptions or attitudes in our approach. And I want to start with our assumptions, because this is a biggie. Assumptions underlie everything that we do. What we do, how we do it, who we do it with and for. We don't even recognize that they're there, but they're underneath and they're guiding our behavior. And in some cases, they can be holding us back. It can be our assumptions that keep us stuck on that escalator. But if we're able to identify them and challenge them, they can be some of our greatest sources for inspiration, innovation, and growth. I just want to share with you a couple of examples of organizations that I think are unscripted because they've challenged assumptions. So the first is a company out of Vancouver. So men in kilts window cleaning. Now we can guess why they get hired the first time, but that's not why they get hired back. They get hired back because they deliver insanely great customer service. But unless you work in property management, can you name another window cleaning company? We have a script for that industry, and it says we don't have to do any marketing or branding. We compete on price. We answer RFPs. That's how this works. And these guys have said we don't have to follow that script. What about our friends at Uber? They challenge the very core assumption of a transportation company because they don't own any vehicles. But then the disruptors get disrupted. Very happy to see Patrick speaking for Tio. I am a big fan of what they do. Now, they challenge the assumptions of traditional taxis and the assumptions of Uber. And they did so with a focus on the customer and how they're actually, their frustrations and how they're actually using the service. Because we need to focus on the user experience. So whether it is that we are developing, whether we're creating, we're improving, or we're innovating, we need to pay attention to the customer at all times because they're telling us how they want to use our product. So we can't stick so strictly to that design script that we miss out on something that's actually happening that we can observe. And I'd like to introduce you to Stan, or Stan the man as he's known. Probably already got a feel for him. Stan was my tour guide when I was on vacation in St. Lucia. He was the best tour guide I've ever had. He was so knowledgeable about the island. He knew everything about the history and the culture and the industry and the economy. He knew all the hot spots and the little known spots. And he was such a great storyteller. He took us on a journey as he drove us around the island. And in speaking with Stan, I learned that his 3 children were all studying in England. One to be a doctor, one a lawyer, and one an engineer. And it became pretty apparent pretty quickly that Stan was not your typical taxi driver. When I looked at his counterparts, who were all hustling for fares and struggling to make ends meet, Stan had a fleet of vehicles all in pristine condition. He had 4 full-time drivers working for him and another 16 on contract that he had personally trained. So I said, Stan, what's your secret? He said, well, I never considered myself a taxi driver. He said, I'm in the tourism business. Because Stan was in the tourism business, he aligned himself with all the major hotels on the island as well as all the cruise ships. Every concierge knew his name. He also aligned himself with all the major tour operators. He knew their itineraries better than they knew their own, and he delivered insanely great customer service. How you define what you do is going to dictate the assumptions that you have. Your assumptions are going to guide your behavior, and your behavior can influence your outcomes. So sometimes if you want to change your outcomes, you have to change how it is that you define what you do. So thinking about what are your scripts. And I'm going to leave this one with you to think about, but it could be depending on how it is that you define what you do. So you could think about the scripts for your industry, for your company, for your department, or for your role. But if you change how it is that you define what you do, you will change your outcomes. So instead of seeing yourself, let's say, as a project manager, you're instead seeing yourself as a strategic business partner, as a professional problem solver, or as a leader. But I can tell you, if you change how you define what you do, it's going to change the assumptions that you have about what you do and about how you do it. Those assumptions are going to guide your behavior, and that behavior will influence your outcomes. Now, I know some of you are thinking that where you work is kind of a scripted environment, or perhaps your clients work for a very scripted environment. Do you think that an individual can be unscripted even if they work in a scripted environment? Oh, yeah. To introduce a couple to you, the first is a client of mine, one of my favorite clients, one of the most creative people I know, and certainly one of the most unscripted individuals that I know of. And she works for what has to be the most scripted organization that I can think of, and I've had the pleasure of working for, and that's NASA. So I'm going to paint the picture for you. It's a government agency. So there's a layer of red tape. It's a federal government agency. So there's another layer of red tape. It's the only federal agency that reports directly into the president. And it's the #1 site of espionage in the United States. So they have all the regular bureaucracy you'd expect to have in a government agency, plus heightened security. So they had checks and balances on their checks and balances. You needed approval on things that were already approved. It was amazing to me that anything ever got done there. I joked with them that the red in their insignia was their red tape circling the earth. And my client, she grew up there. She was a 20-year civil servant. And she was successful not in spite of the rules and constraints, but because of. So she was asked to lead a new center on site, and it was a center for creativity and innovation. And she was specifically tasked to bring creative thinking to NASA. So she wanted to develop a course on creative thinking. She wanted to make it available to all NASA employees, and she wanted it to be the best. The only problem was she had no budget, no resources, and no people. But she did it. And the way she did it was she got people to volunteer to help her design this course. So people who had full-time jobs and some big important jobs at NASA, she got them to volunteer in their off time to help her develop this course. Because she understands you don't motivate people to be creative. You allow them to be creative and they will be motivated. And she went on to win the Agency Award for Collaboration. So you can have a site award. There's 10 NASA sites across the US, but an agency award is across all sites. She won the Agency Award for Collaboration the same year they launched the Mars Curiosity. It's kind of a big deal. Now, do you think she would have gotten the same results if she was given an unlimited budget with unlimited resources? No, because constraints can actually fuel our creativity. And if you think about the constraints that you face at work, and whether it be time constraints or budget constraints or people constraints, whatever it is, those can actually help us come up with very creative solutions. Because if you think of constraints like the edges of a box, well, if that's the edge of a sandbox, what do you get to do inside a sandbox? You get to play. This is Adam. Adam's from Ottawa. Anyone from Ottawa or been to Ottawa recently? Oh, then you know it's under construction. And Adam here, he was working at the Parliament buildings, and specifically the West Block of the Parliament buildings. And it wasn't just the building that was under construction, it was also the roadway leading into it. The single roadway was down to one lane. So you had all the regular traffic going through, the people that worked there, the visitors, the couriers, but now you also had construction vehicles going down the single lane of traffic. And Adam's job is to hold the sign that says, stop, slow. And here's Adam at work. Love this guy. Now, if we were to look at his job description, if we were to look at the tasks of his job, it would say, when you want traffic to stop, hold the sign that says, yeah. And if you want traffic to move forward slowly, hold the sign that says, yeah. And what's the purpose of his job? Sorry? Security, yes, and more than that. Traffic flow, yes, and more than that. Satisfaction, I'm hearing, it's actually safety is the main purpose of his job. Working in road construction is a very dangerous environment. People are driving through, they're not paying attention. They're thinking about the meeting they just came from, the one they're going to, what they're making for dinner. They are not paying attention. And Adam's job is to get their attention and to say, hey, my mates are working up there, let's keep them safe. Do you think he got good results? Now, the people driving through still have the same result. They're inconvenienced. They have to slow down. They might have to stop. They might end up being late. But what do you think happens to their frustration level by the time they meet Adam? Because sometimes it's not what we do, but it's how we do it. Now, people come up to me and say, that's fine. It's fine. That's not going to work in my job. You don't understand my job. I mean, I actually have a script I have to follow. I'd like to meet Shelley. Shelley was my flight attendant when I was flying on WestJet from Toronto to Calgary. And she was the in-flight cabin supervisor, which means she does the safety announcements while her colleagues do the safety dance down the middle of the aisle. And if you're like me, flown a few times, not actually paying attention at this point. I mean, it's a 4-hour flight. I'm getting settled into my seat, I'm pulling out my book, my laptop, and pretty soon Shelley had my attention, along with everyone else on that plane because of what she was saying. So for instance, when the oxygen mask drops down and you're to put it on yourself, if you're traveling with a small child, you put it on yourself first. And if you're traveling with more than one child, pick your favorite and move on down. We were all listening because we wanted to know what she was going to say next. At the end, we applauded safety instructions. Now, the next week I flew a different airline and they had a video and it was a lot easier to ignore. Now, Shelley's job, a flight attendant's job, is not to get you pillows and peanuts. What is the purpose of a flight attendant's job? Absolutely, passenger safety. And Shelley knows you're more likely to be safe if you're aware of the safety instructions. She knows you're more likely to be aware of them if you actually paid attention to them. Do you think she got good results? And she has a script, and she didn't write it. It was written by Transport Canada, and all airlines are legally liable to give you the same information. Do you think perhaps she got better than expected results? Yeah, because when I'm talking about being unscripted, I'm not talking about rebellion. It is about results. So I want you guys to picture yourselves at work. And I want you to picture a time you're feeling pretty proud of yourselves. You got a time where you know you did good. You might have even felt like this, yes. You probably went home and told somebody about it because you were that good. Everybody got a time? Give me one of those slow, confident nods if you do. Oh yeah, I knew it. Now, is the time you're picturing, is it a time where you did something that you've done 100 times before? You did it exactly the same way and got exactly the same results? No? Is what you're picturing maybe when you did something new? Maybe you overcame an obstacle or a challenge? Maybe you solved a complex problem or you got better than expected results? I knew it. These guys are unscripted. What you're going to do now is you're going to turn to the person next to you. You're really going to ham this up. You're going to turn to the person next to you. You're going to flash them a big smile and you're going to say, I got this. I got this. I can see all of you. I got this. You're going to turn to the person next to you. You're going to flash them a big smile and you're going to say, I got this. That's better. That's better. Because you're going to want to say it because it feels good when you say it. And there's a little bit of attitude there, a little bit of confidence. This is actually the attitude that we need when we're dealing with challenge and change, when things are happening around us. We need to be able to say, I got this. And it's a confidence that we need because anytime we do something new, we can be feeling a little bit nervous or anxious. But once you've done something for the second, seventh, 12th time, you can feel pretty confident. But there's no reason why you can't take that feeling and apply it to a new situation, even if you've never done it before. You can say, well, I haven't done that before, but I've solved problems before. I've dealt with change before. If I could do it then, I could do it now. Bring it on. I got this. And that confidence, it's really important because anytime we're in a new situation, when things are changing, there can be uncertainty and ambiguity, and that can cause anxiety. And it's absolutely normal. It's absolutely natural. It's actually physiological. This is our very advanced brain, but there's a very primitive part in the brain in the back, in the limbic system, called the amygdala. And what the amygdala does is it senses any stimulus that comes into the environment will be sensed by the amygdala first. So the amygdala will put an affect on it or an emotion on it. So it's sometimes called our emotional brain. This is why we react emotionally to things first. And then that signal travels up the brain to the really smart part of our brain, which is our prefrontal cortex. We do all our smart stuff up there. So we crunch numbers up there, we write code up there, we make excuses up there. This is where our language center and our rational thought is. But back here is the amygdala. So it's called our emotional brain, but it's also called our gator brain because it's the only brain that this guy has. So every mammal has the amygdala, but it's the only brain a gator has. A gator has 5 ways it can react to anything, and that is it. So a gator can fight, it can flee, it can feed, it can freeze, and it can mate. So to remember that, we could call it the 5 Fs. Okay. So if a gator's in his environment, another gator comes in, if they're of the same size, they're going to fight. If the other gator comes in bigger than our gator's going to flee. If the other gator comes in smaller than our gator's going to feed. If the other gator comes in of the opposite sex and our gator's in the mood, he's going to try and mate with it. If it's none of the above, he's just going to freeze. Because he doesn't know what to do. He's only got those 5 ways to react. The same thing happens to us. When we're feeling nervous or anxious, our amygdala gets excited. When our amygdala gets excited, we're not able to access the smart part of our brain. And it's done for self-preservation purposes because your brain cannot tell the difference between a real physical threat and a psychological threat. So anytime you're feeling nervous or anxious, all of your brain power is going to go back into the amygdala to get you ready to either fight or flee. And if we want to be able to access that smart part of our brain, we have to be able to keep that amygdala calm. And we can do so by saying, I got this. And we need to be able to do that because that amygdala gets triggered so quick we don't even recognize it. Have you ever been in the grocery store and you go in the 8 items or less aisle and you start counting the number of items in the basket ahead of you? Gator brain. If you're driving down the highway and someone cuts you off and your initial reaction is, ugh, gator brain. But then that signal travels up to the prefrontal cortex and your prefrontal cortex says, it's not so bad. Don't worry about it. That guy was probably in a hurry. You'll still get where you're going. Relax. It allows you to calm down and have a more mature reaction. But we can do it for ourselves at any time by saying, I got this. So it's a very powerful thing for us to say to ourselves so that we've always got the confidence so we'll be able to access that smart part of our brain to be able to problem solve whatever situation that we're in. It's also a very powerful thing to say to your colleagues and your teammates. I got this. I'll take care of it. Gives them the confidence, calms them down, and allows them to go and work on that because you got this. It's a great thing to say up or to say to your client, say, I got this. It buys you some time while you figure out how to do it, right? But it's an extremely powerful thing to say to somebody else, right? You got this. I know you can do it. There's nothing more powerful than someone else's confidence in you. Now, this is all part of what I call the unscripted mindset. And the unscripted mindset is about our approach when we're dealing with situations, specifically when we're having to manage in the moment. And the unscripted mindset is based on the principles of improv and problem solving. Are you guys familiar with improv, improvisational theater? You might have seen Whose Line Is It Anyway on TV. That's performance improv. And so in a nutshell, what improv would be is 2 or more people would come up on stage without a script, and they would create something on the spot that you would have sworn was rehearsed in advance. But just because they can't rehearse does not mean they're not prepared. Because an improviser is probably the most prepared actor within theater, because they're prepared for the unexpected. Because an improviser has no idea what's going to happen to them when they go to work. Like really no clue. Could you imagine this? You get up every day and you have no idea what's going to happen to you. You don't know whether you're going to be a physician, a welder, or a zebra. You don't know. You get up, when you get to work, you get there, it's a dark stage. Climb on that stage and there is no script, no costumes, no props, and you have no clue what's going to happen. And it is so exciting. Because all of that uncertainty and ambiguity represents opportunity. And if we can approach situations like improvisers, we'll be able to create opportunity. Because the reason improv works is because there's rules in improv that every improviser knows. And because every improviser knows them, any improviser can get on stage with any other improviser and they could create something on the spot you would have sworn they had practiced beforehand. So what I'd like to do is share with you the rules and skills of improv, and then we will just do a couple of quick exercises. Does that sound okay? All right. So these are the rules. I'm going to go through them one by one. At the end of all of the rows, there were some handouts and some pens. If you can share them with each other. If you're looking for one, it's just this list and it's blank because it's more important about what you say about it than what I say. So I'm going to go through them one by one in a very calm way. So the first rule is it's not about you. It's the first rule about improv. It's not about you. It's not about you getting the spotlight. It's not about you having the punchline. Your job as an improviser is to support your scene mate. Your job is to make them look good. But their job is to make you look good. Total trust and support of those that you work with. It's not about you means it's not about your ideas. It's not about you having to be in control and having to lead everything. It's not about you means it's not about what you've got going on up on the stage. It's always about your audience. And we all have an audience for whom we are performing. And we all have a customer for whom we are performing. So it's understanding their needs and being able to deliver. So total trust and support of those that you work with a focus on the customer. Does that sound like a good place to start? Now, every improv scene has the same goal. It's to have a good scene, right? No one wants to be in a bad scene, the scene that didn't work, the scene that the audience didn't enjoy. No one wants to be in that scene. Every company should have the same goal, and that's to be a good company and to get results. Every project, every team should have the same goal. But it's amazingly magical if it's a common goal. If everybody, regardless of their role and their position, is focused on the ultimate goal, on the ultimate customer. That's where we can reduce conflict, we can come together, and we can actually get stuff done when there's a common goal. In improv, we talk about accepting all offers. So anything that is done, said, or brought into an improv scene is considered an offer. And it's your job to accept it. It's your duty to accept it. So you cannot block or deny an offer. So if Cliff and I were in a scene together, and I had it in my head that we were going to go to the park, but before I could say anything, he says, do you want to go to the moon? And I say, yeah. What's going to happen in that scene? Wah, wah, wah. Right? Like I've just killed the scene. So you cannot block or deny an offer. You have to accept it. So everything that happens in improv is an offer. Everything that happens at work is an offer. And it's your job to accept it. Doesn't mean you have to like it, doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but you do have to accept it. You have to acknowledge that it happened if you want to remain in that scene, if you want to remain relevant. To block or deny an offer will keep you stuck on that escalator. Does that make sense? Any of the changes that we discuss, whether they are the planned strategic changes, the competitive environmental changes, or the change that happens in the moment, those are all offers. And we have to accept it. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, in improv, it's not enough just to accept it. We also have to build on it, right? We call that yes-anding. So you accept the offer, yes, and you build on it. You move that scene forward. So when Cliff says, do you want to go to the moon? I say yes. And we can take my spaceship because I just got it out of the shop. So you take the idea, you build on it, and you move that scene forward. Right? So it's not just enough to accept that that escalator has stopped. You now have to decide, what are you going to do? Are you going to walk up or are you going to get off? I actually think that this is what you guys excel at, is the yes-anding. You take the feedback in, you understand what's going on, and then you're going to iterate, you're going to change, you're going to make improvements as yes-anding in terms of moving it forward and doing it in a very fast way. I actually think you guys are already expert improvisers in terms of how it is that you work. Now, if you remember nothing else about improv, you can just remember these two words, yes and. This kind of the foundational principle of improv is, yes, I'm going to accept the offer, and I'm going to support you, because it's not about me, and I'm going to be able to move it forward in a positive way. So yes and. In terms of the skills involved, this is really the trick, being present in the moment. Anytime someone says to me, I wish I could do improv because I want to be able to think on my feet faster, this is the trick. We spend so much time in our own heads thinking about what we're going to say next, what we're going to do next, that we're not actually present. And if we could be present, we would actually hear all the offers as they come up in real time, and we'd be able to respond to them. In terms of getting ourselves present, a good trick is just to breathe. Just a deep breath, say you got this, and you'll be ready. There's some practices that you might be familiar with, mindfulness or meditation. And those are fabulous practices for an individual to become present in the moment. And what improv does is it allows you to be present in the moment with a group of people while accomplishing a task. Does that sound like how we work? Yeah. In terms of the number one skill involved in improv is the ability to listen. Right? It's not the ability to talk, it's the ability to listen. This is the number one skill in communication, number one skill in leadership, number one skill in relationships. And the good news is that it's a skill, which means we can practice it and we can get good at it. And then there's focus. And focus has a couple of meanings in improv, but it's understanding where the focus needs to be. So if I was in a scene, sometimes the focus is going to be on me, sometimes it's on my scene partner, sometimes it's on the audience. Well, that's okay, because it's not about me. And recognizing where the focus needs to be. So sometimes the focus is going to be on you. It might be on your teammates. It could be on a supplier or a client, your boss, a direct report, and that's okay, because it's not about you. So it's understanding where the focus needs to be, and to be able to give and take focus is a big leadership skill. So those are all the rules and skills of improv. Are we ready to try some? Okay, let's try right now. If everyone can cross your arms for me, please give me some attitude. Some of you are already doing it. Okay. All right, you will notice that you've got one arm on top and one arm underneath. If you could reverse that for me, please. Take the one that's underneath and put it on top. Yeah, right? It's a little awkward. It's a little uncomfortable. And you might feel that way as we're doing one of these exercises, but I'm going to ask that you stick with it. Because when we're doing something new, it can feel a little awkward, but you never know where you're going to get a good learning from yourself or something for your team. The other reason I'm going to ask that you participate is because if you hold back, you're going to affect everybody else, and we don't want to do that. Is that good? Okay, so we don't have much time, and we've got a complicated room. So what we're going to do is I will deal with these two rows together. So you guys are going to become one row. So the first row is going to stand, and every other row is going to stand up. Let's try that real fast. You guys are going to join that row? Okay, and every other row, we're going to continue all the way back. Yep, every other row is going to stand up, and we're going to move as fast as possible because we don't want to waste our time doing this, do we? Okay, so every other row, stand up. Every other row. Every other row. Okay, every other row is going to stand up. Okay, all right. Every other row, okay, is going to stand up. We got it? Okay, now you're going to turn around. Face the back. If you are in a row that's sitting down, you are now standing up. Okay, this is interesting. If you were in the original every other row, you are facing the back. The next rows that were to stand up are to stand up and face the front. So you're now facing the row in front of you. Does that make sense? Okay, great. This first row that I messed up here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add you guys to other rows. So you guys, oh no, you guys are facing this way. We've got it. You got this. I knew it. Okay, so is everybody looking at somebody else? If you're not looking at someone else, you are facing the wrong way. All right. Okay, nice. So really good. Nice. Well done. Okay, so what you can do is if you're on the end, you can kind of fill in the edge in the aisle if you want. But let's picture this as being a circle, kind of an odd-shaped circle that you're in with the group that you're facing. You are now one team facing each other. You want to stand so you can make eye contact with everybody. It's going to be a little bit awkward, but we'll do it. Okay, now what you're going to do is we're going to, everybody is going to point their finger at someone else in the circle and keep it there. Are you ready? Go. Whoever has the most fingers pointed at you, you are the leader. Congratulations. Congratulations. If it's not obvious, you can volunteer to be the leader. Okay, do we have a leader in each group? Nice. Okay. I am going to steal a chair. This is dangerous. If nobody's pointing at you, it just means they were intimidated by you and because of your strength. Okay, nice. So I'm just going to ask that you look up here for a second so I can give you instructions. There's no one from health and safety here, is there? Okay. Okay. So you are going to stand in the ready stance, which is legs slightly apart, hands at the ready. We got this? Okay. And this is an exercise that improvisers would do before going on stage at night to get them focused, present, and in the moment, and it's called clap focus. So what's going to happen is the leader's going to start, they're going to clap their hands, and they're going to point at someone in the circle. That person will then clap their hands and point at someone else in the circle, who will clap their hands and point at someone else in the circle. And you're going to see how fast you can pass it. Are you ready? Okay, leaders, and start. Okay, faster. Are you guys not on a team? You are going to join a team. Come here. You guys, come here. You're going to stand very quickly in a circle right here and face each other. There we go. Okay, how are we doing? Yeah? You got this. Nice. Nice. How did that feel? Was that okay? Yeah? Did anybody find it harder than they thought it would be? Uh-huh. Was that a uh-huh from here? I heard a uh-huh. Was that you? Oh, so why was it harder? Focus. Yeah. Because you didn't know when it was coming at you, right? So you had to be totally aware. You're totally present in the moment because you didn't know it was coming. Well done. When someone pointed at you, that was an offer. When you clapped your hands, you accepted the offer. When you pointed at someone else, you just yes-anded it. So you guys just did improv. Nice. Are you guys familiar? Do you think you could take it up a notch? Take it up a notch? Yes, you got this. Nice. Are you guys familiar with the alphabet? We're going to test this theory. So can we choose an alphabet? Can we choose in your row either the English alphabet or the French alphabet, whichever everybody is familiar with? Can we choose the English? I tell you, if we mix them up, it'll mess us up. Are we okay? Okay. It's up to the group to decide, but I'm going to say choose one. Okay, so what's going to happen is we're going to practice the alphabet. We're going to test this theory that you know it. And so the leader's going to start. They will say A. The person to their, we're going to send it around, around the circle one letter at a time. So the leader's going to start and say A. The person to their left will say B. The person to their left will say Nice. You're going to go to the last letter and you're going to cheer. Are you ready? This is a competition. Are you ready? Go. All right. Are most of you done? Okay, nice. Well done. Well done. So now what we're going to do is we're going to combine those two activities. Whoa, I know. So what's going to happen is the leader's going to start. They're going to clap their hands and they're going to say A. Whoever they point at will then clap their hands and say B. That person will clap their hands and say nice. When you get to the last letter, you're going to cheer. It is a competition. Are you ready? Go. Did you really do all the letters? Yeah? Nice. Nice. All right. Did we finish, Cliff? Did you? Okay. Nice. Well done. So how was that? Who said hard? You said hard? No. Did someone say hard? No? Did anyone find that harder than the first time? Yeah, why was it harder?
Two things.
Yeah. Yeah, so right, we now had to focus and remember the alphabet. So we knew the alphabet, but we didn't know which letter was coming to us, so we couldn't plan in advance, right? Yeah, tough. Okay, and did anyone find it easier? Yes, why was it easier?
Practice run. So
She said because we already did a first practice run. Absolutely, yes. You had to be more present. You knew what was coming. You had to be present. You had to focus. But we had already practiced it. So we already practiced clapping and pointing, right? We got this. Then we practiced the alphabet. We got this. And now we just layered that complexity on top. And I can tell you, I can keep increasing the complexity, making this tougher, and you guys would get faster, not slower. Because you would start, as you start feeling the confidence, you can add things on, you get better and faster, but you also start going into flow with the team, which can be an amazing thing when you're working with a group. You guys did awesome. Thank you. You can take a seat. So I would love to be able to do some more exercises with you, but we're tight on time. But I am going to be at the next break, which is at 3:30. I'm going to be at the Agile Partnership booth. And so if anyone wants to come by and wants to try a couple of games, I'd be happy to take you through it. So hopefully that you got something out of this that you can bring back to you at work in terms of whether we're talking about the mindset or being able to challenge our assumptions or even the exercises that we did. For instance, anytime you have a meeting, if you wanted to start it with that clap and point, once you do that, everybody is totally present and they're ready to go. It's a great way to start any training because now they're ready, present, and ready to learn. So we were talking about our assumptions, our attitudes, and our approach, and our assumptions really do underlie everything that we do. What we do, how we do it, who we do it with and for. We don't even recognize that they're there, but they are, and they're guiding our behavior. But if we're able to identify them and challenge them, they can be a great source for inspiration, innovation, and growth. And how you define what you do is going to dictate the assumptions you have. Your assumptions are going to guide your behavior, and your behavior will influence your outcomes. Our attitude is how we're going to deal with challenge and change. You got this. We need the confidence to be able to do it. And the approach is how we're going to be able to work together in order to manage in the moment. So the next time you're facing a situation where there is uncertainty and ambiguity, what are you going to say? Nice. Thank you very much. Thank you.